So years ago, these were put on these fender bucks. If you want some more information on these fender bucks and whatnot, or like us to do a video on them, please give us a thumbs up, share this with others, and put it down in the comment section. We need some input. We're here for you, the Nova owner, and the Nova enthusiast, and any other cars. Like I said, this is Novas and friends, not corporations and deep pockets. These fender bucks make it nice, so when you do body work on these later on or before, they support all your appendages in the right positions, allowing you to put that nice paint job down. So, like I said, we get everything prepped and ready. Make sure we got all our stuff ready to go, and we're going to go and lay this fender carefully up on the car. You have two different types. Well, actually, there's three different types of bolts that we have here. We have a large washer, a smaller washer. They're both 3/8 inch bolts. And then there's also a 5/16 that has no washer on. It's just a flange bolt. These are also known as fender bolts. These are the original factory ones. We're going to use them. They were painted up years ago, and we're just putting this car together for a little bit. Now these different bolts, the large washer ones, go on the very top, up in here. They do not go on the very bottom. Although if you have enough of those, you can put them pretty much anywhere they want. The worst one to get in is the door jamb one. You want to do that last. We get everything lined up, get it to where you want it, and then you can shim your door jamb last. Like I say, we're looking for alignment, getting everything lined up with the body, make sure it's parallel to the side. Now, if things don't line up right away, just relax. Don't curse and swear and carry on, throw wrenches. They'll probably just bounce off your windshield and break it. Take some time, walk away from it, close up the garage for the night, go enjoy a cold one, relax. Things take a while to line up. These cars are never perfect when they were built. Don't expect them to be perfect when they're done. And if you think there are perfect things in this world, well, someday you'll realize there aren't. We're going to let this run here and work on bolting this up. So if you hit a bump in the road and your top gap is tighter than your bottom gap, it's probably because your front end is not sagging enough. What you'll have to do is you'll have to jack up your front end and lower your jack stands. Sounds simple, and it is. Alright, so we got the top bolt here. The shim that goes underneath here will dictate the height of this line. It'll also dictate the height of this line down here. So, which line is more important? Well, if they both line up at the same time, that's awesome. Not typical though. I think this top here is the most important line, because this is the one you're going to see. This is the one that's going to line up this fender to this, all the way forward, all the way back. Now this bolt here, on the firewall, that I forgot to talk about earlier, that one, the shim behind it, will dictate your door edge gap here. On the bottom, your door edge gap is just dictated on where you tighten up the slotted bolts. I like to take and get these jack stands in the front, get a jack under there, raise and lower it until I can get this edge to line up with the door as best as possible. Very tricky. You also have to watch, not so much on these 75 to 9s, but on the 68 to 74 cars, there's a really sharp, almost a corner that's inside this radius when they bent and made that sheet metal. And that's not inside this radius. So unless the cars have caliper fit gaps, you're gonna have to watch that corner. So that corner If this gets too tight, that corner will go and touch. All right, so we got the top snugged up here a little bit. The gap's a little larger than I like, but I know the way the gaps were on this car, and this is actually smaller than it was. You can actually tell up here by the paint markings that the fender alignment is slightly different than where I had it a while ago, we'll put it that way. Also, make sure that you eyeball down the side of the car here. Make sure your fender's not sticking way off to the driver's side or passenger side. You're not really going to know a whole lot until you get the hood on. Alright, so when you get your top close to where you think you can get it, you want to start working on the bottom. Now you see this gap down here, and there's a gap up here. We want to start on the body side closest to the door. And we want to go in here and we want to try to line up this line here and make sure that this isn't sticking out too far on the body. And then keep our rocker as tight as we can. Now that'll all depend on how much adjustment is left inside this C-shaped or U-shaped opening here. Sometimes you have to go and see this one here to make it even nicer. We would have to go and get in the die grinder or a grinder and take a little more of that material off. That's why in upcoming videos, when we work on the 67, we're going to show you the tips and tricks that you need to do before your car goes to the body shop. It's more than just getting the stuff bolted together and taking all your Franklins and stuffing them into the body shop. Because when it comes back, if it didn't fit together first, it will never fit together. So, like I say, here, get the bolt in there. We can't come much further over. You can see this gap right here is a little thick. So, I'm going to get an idea here, lining it up with our eyes where this is. And it looks like this one's going to be about 2 1/8-inch washers and a 1/16 inch washer. We're going to start there. You can always take it apart and do it again, over and over and over again. Sometimes you just got to get in here and get your washers and get the bottom of the fender kind of pulled away from the car slightly and get them up underneath that brace. That fender brace is kind of precarious. Sometimes it's easier to take your washers and put the thin washer in the middle, make it a little more manageable. I've also seen guys take and tape them together. The only thing I don't like about that is, well, then you got that tape up in there, and that's going to eventually start to decompose and get mildewy or something else, and just make your car look a little goofy. But if that's what you got to do to keep it under a budget and make it your own. But at the same time, watch informative shows that show you things. I'm just a big fan, as everyone else, of going out there and watching those commercially made TV shows with all of them, this and that, and brought to you by this and that. But most of that's just fluff, and they slam the car together in 3 episodes, and you don't see any of the details. You don't learn anything. Well, at least I don't. Besides laughing at them when they do silly stuff or brag about how much power the car makes, and then, you know, how many hundreds of thousands of dollars it took them to do it. So we'll get that one started, and then we're gonna have to work on this one here, because this one here, I don't know if you quite see it here with the angle. This one here in the front, as we push this one in and out, this will help line up with the door. So we get this edge lined up with the door first, which we're a little bit off yet. I need to go a little manhandle that. Get that lined up, kind of hold this out at the same time, push it over, and then we'll get the bolt and we'll get the shims for this one here in front and get that one good to go. So once we get this lined up here as best we can, mind the little paint chip there, we want to take our straight edge. We want to carefully lay it down the side of the car here. We will see how the front of this fender is sticking in, sticking out. It should match the door relatively closely. I mean, all body panels are slightly rounded to hold their shape so they don't become oil cans. but we want to get her as close as we can and shim up the bottom down here, then snug it all up. So once we get things lined up as good as they're probably going to get, so once we get the bottom all lined up, everything looking pretty parallel, we're going to go work on the door jamb bolt. Door jamb bolt will align some of the in and out as well as the up and down. We'll see what she looks like next. Now we first open the door up here, you're going to want to make sure you have your flashlight ready. You're going to want to open up really slowly and check this front lip on this door edge as it goes into jamb there. You see that, Miles?
Yep.
Because you're going to have another piece of metal where it wraps around, and depending on the way it was made at the factory, that piece of metal might want to catch on your door lip edge, depending on how tight your gap is. I think we're all right here. We're just going to go nice and slow, check it everywhere. And then once we get it closer to being fully open, we want to check this spot here up on the top, like I showed you before, to make sure that nothing's going to catch. Alright, so in here is our the delicious General Motors design of a door jamb bolt. Many cars you see that are torn apart, especially race cars, they're going to be missing this bolt because it is a pain in the butt to take in and out. Thankfully, since the days of ratcheting wrenches, that'll fit inside here and turn that 9/16 little bugger in and out. So what you want to do is you want to get your idea of your gap here, figure out how many shims it's going to be. This one's looking like 2 1/8" shims, and you're going to get your bolt, put it in there, put your shims in, and slowly snug it down just a little bit. And then check your door as you slowly close it again. You don't want to be chipping the paint off of it. So this one needed a thick 1/8" and a thin 1/16 inch, so a 16th and an 1/8" shim. There's a bolt snugged up. Like I say, you gotta watch everything. Got your gap up here. You have your internal, all your internal stuff. And the door jamb here. Kind of hard to see on this car because it's all red, but it's easier to see than a black car. You gotta make sure she's all clear all the way inside and out. Check it with the door fully open, fully closed. This car had the door handle shaved off eons ago against my father's will. We got lined up pretty good here. This is a little high here, but that's just the way the fender was bent at the factory. There's no way to correct that right now without slicing the jamb of the fender and moving it down and re-welding it, which is not on the checklist. So she's lined up pretty good. Like I said, we use a straight edge down here. Pick it up. We'll use that to line up. Make sure it was parallel. A little easier with two hands. Alright, tape is off. And if you look down the side here, you can see that we're out from the door a little bit here, but when we get down to the bottom, we lined up pretty good there. Well, this is typical fit and finish on these cars. They are bowed a little more in the middle. Alright, did the same thing on this side. Yes, the gap is kind of big, but if you look down here at the rocker, we're slammed against the rocker. That is a fit and finish of a late 70s car from the factory.
Alright guys, next up is putting on the hood. See you then.